pressurise your opponent. So it was very strange, that decision, and he could certainly regret that. I mean, looking at this position, it just seems like Black's pieces are very stale here. They're not energized. So it's dangerous position.
And exactly what you said, right? Even if the game ends in a draw, it's on your terms. You let Magnus earn that draw by fighting out that defense. And there we know that Kaisa is not happy with such decisions.
Yeah, the goddess of chess. She punishes people who end the games too quickly, who don't fight to the bitter end, who don't take kind of principled, active, aggressive decisions. And yeah, Nakamura offering a draw in that last game. If he gets eliminated here, or at least pushed down to the other bracket by Magnus winning, then he'll look back, he'll think, missed opportunity, at least psychologically playing on. I mean, that's, for me at least, the most pleasure you can get from chess, just asserting your dominance over the opponent. You're asserting your authority by kind of showing them, okay, I'm the one trying to win, I'm the one trying to win. You're just playing for a draw at the very best. And okay, we'll see. History is, of course, written by the winners, but Hikaru right now looks like he's in a bit of trouble on the board. I love what Magnus has been doing. He's slowly maneuvered, it's taken 2 moves, but he's brought his knight round to the king side. White's king, much more secure, much more comfortable now, and also Black's king on the diagonal, starting to feel the heat potentially.
Yeah, it is. And if the king, I'm just looking at a line, tries to step back so it moves out to the diagonal, I think Magnus has a very clever idea of moving his knight to the side of the board. Maybe we can show that knight to h4 potentially here, and Black would love to mobilize one of those pawns, but you can never move the f-pawn forwards because you actually get checkmated here, or you have to give up your queen with a very nice combination of the white queen coming in with checkmate. So those pawns, they're often like, are they strong or are they hanging? This is the question, and the more this game is developing, the more they seem to be hanging, and they seem to be very, very weak pawns in the position. So yeah, I mean, it's still problems for Hikaru to overcome here, but he has the time. If he can maintain those pawns, he will be doing pretty well.
Yeah, the problem is what to do for Hikaru. This rook is kind of stranded offside, disconnected. It's kind of, the board is cut in half. It can't join its army. This Black Knight wants to kind of vacate the back rank, get to an active post, but if you ever move it away, the white rook will be ready to pounce into the heart of Black's position. Remember, this square is a nice little hole, and pawns will start to drop. So I just don't really see any productive moves. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, you don't want to break the integrity of your pawns. And the most logical move, stepping out of the eye line of the white queen, does have its drawbacks, as Simon mentioned. So really, really difficult, and that is reflected in how much time Hikaru has been taking over the last few turns. Magnus, the clocks are roughly level, but Magnus has been kind of upping the momentum, upping the speed here, starting to hint at those threats, as we highlighted as well. And okay, the king does drop back. I'm expecting your move on the board, Simon.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how he's going to defend against this move. I mean, the white knight coming in, and he does play it immediately. I think Black's only move is to play e4 here, but it looks kind of loose, right? Okay, he's just defended his pawn in a sensible way, but everything is just hanging on for Black here, and one wrong move, and it's going to collapse this position. But is there a way to break through immediately here?
And if Magnus actually is able to convert this one, that's just match over for Hikaru. That's a collapse of the match for Hikaru. Magnus in driver's seat right now. The bishop has dropped back to d2, so ideas of rerouting the bishop to the other diagonal. You want to put it to c3. Again, target that central e5 pawn, trying to get rid of Black's dark squared bishop. Things are looking bleak for Hikaru right now in a King's Indian defense with the black pieces. You want to get to White's king. You want to try to create your attack, but he hasn't been very successful so far.
No.
Yeah, I just don't see any moves. My first instinct was there's too much pressure on this pawn. Let's try and, for example, kick this knight away. But suddenly this would walk into a beautiful tactic. Rook takes pawn, and the black queen is overworked. She cannot take this rook. It's poisoned because of a nice family fork here, a royal fork on the king, queen, and rook. And of course, if the black queen takes this knight as well, then her bishop would drop, and white would have picked up a very important pawn. So tactics are working out in white's favor. And normally, as a player, psychologically, when you're calculating in your head and things are always working against you, always kind of turning out well for your opponents, suddenly you start to collapse, you panic. And bishop c3 is so annoying. All these dark squared weaknesses towards the black king. Yeah, King's Indian, you want to be attacking. You don't want to be on the defensive. I think your move from earlier, Simon, must be played sooner or later. e4 now or on the next few turns, but then white will, of course, trade off the dark squared bishops. And if white's knights ever kind of land on f4, that would be a beautiful position and a strategic domination for white.
I mean, I can see why Hikaru doesn't want to play that move, because as soon as you do play that, your pawns lose a lot of the fluidity that they have. He'd love to move the other pawn and try to start an attack, but you can never do this because the g6 square is just too weak.
It's on the board.
It's on.
Whoa!
Really? Is he giving up the queen?
What's happened here?
What is happening here? Wow, he's randomizing.
He's gambling. Hikaru Nakamura. This is going to land with a check. I think this is almost guaranteed at this point. Magnus will give this check. The difference here is it's not game over. It's not checkmate, because this time the king can use the g8 square, which was liberated by the black rook last turn, and he's just giving up material here. He's hoping for knight takes rook potentially, because suddenly he'll take the other knight, and this white knight has no time to save itself, because there's a nasty threat of pawn takes pawn on f2. Evaluation bar still says this is winning for white, or very promising at least. But the question here is whether this white knight can simply move. Maybe it retreats. If you're feeling ambitious and brave, you might go to the side of the board. I think Nakamura here, he's banking on bishop to f5, a double attack against the queen and the knight, but there is a trick. There is a trap, as always, as we've seen actually a theme of this game. Queen takes, sacrificing, and a fork at the end. And I think white here will end up in a very promising endgame.
Yeah, it looks like it, because you're going to eliminate black's dark square bishop and then play this bishop c3, right? And again, it's those pawns, the pawns in the center, they just seem a little bit too weak. They're hanging pawns. White's rooks and the bishop are brilliantly placed, and this position is kind of collapsing. So yeah, it's I kind of like the idea, because he's got to take a risk, but it's hard to get away with such a move against Magnus Carlsen, right? I mean, against me, easy, but I mean, not against Magnus. And what does he play here then? I think he's got to. I mean, I'm not sure. They're both disgusting, those lines. So you know, if you've got a choice between two bad options, what would you go for?
Yeah. We're expecting Magnus now to play knight h5. He's kind of controlled himself. He's paused here. He's calculating. But that line, there we go, knight to h5. It's very linear. It's very direct. And suddenly, look at Hikaru's reaction. Knight h5 landed on the board. He looked away in disgust. And he now realized that the bishop to f5 does not work. The move he was relying upon, it looked like a double attack, but white's queen would just capture on f5, and that fork, all those kind of trades lead to a winning endgame for white. And that's why the bars got so excited. Hikaru in huge trouble.
Yeah, you can tell from his face that, I mean, if this move doesn't work, then he's going to be at least losing the exchange. But Magnus can also just move his bishop, take the dark. I mean, everything is working well for Magnus, and I don't see Hikaru making it to the fourth game. I just can't see how he can do it here.
Yeah, I don't think he'll make it for the next couple of moves in this one. He does fall back with the bishop, so not allowing the trade on g7. Does white have time now to actually just get greedy with that rook on f8? Knight f8, is that what you just go for and ask black to actually show what compensation you've got?
Knight f8 before it's too late.
Nice
move
one, David.
I don't hate. It's winning material. It's just a question of whether Magnus is feeling greedy. Maybe there's something even better here for white. Still, this threat of bishop to f5 for black, it's unclear whether that's actually possible because of all those forks, those knight checks we were highlighting a moment ago. And Magnus here maybe just wondering whether he can slow play it, keep building up, because those white knights aren't going away anywhere anytime soon. And Nakamura is shaking his head again.
Yeah. I mean, this is. I think Hikaru's only chance here is white's knight on h5. It is lacking some squares. White's knight right on the side of the board, but with careful calculation here. I mean, just look at white's pieces and look at black's pieces. Black's pieces, they're hovering on the back rank. They're all sleeping. They can't go anywhere. White's pieces are all developed. They're all active, and just for that reason alone, it's creaking badly for black.
That's a good point you make. The knight on h5 doesn't have squares. So if white does get greedy with the rook on f8, what Hikaru might be banking on is king f8. And now he's asking questions, how are you actually defending that knight on h5? I see g4 is a move, but I would be a little hesitant to play that.
Yeah, at the very least, Hikaru would get some counter-attacking chances against the white king. Evaluation bar has, of course, no fear of ghosts. It says white is just winning here with the extra material, rook for bishop. But yeah, this is what Hikaru is banking on. At least from a human point of view, Magnus would get slightly nervous here. White's king not entirely safe. So good practical chance by Hikaru. I like his last move, bishop h8, and it has forced Magnus to think. But yeah, knight takes rook looks promising, knight takes bishop looks promising. This pawn is collapsing. Magnus spoilt for choice, and he does go for the material. He does play g4.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm pretty sure he's made of AI, Magnus Carlsen. I'm pretty sure he's artificial intelligence just embodied and just fearless.
Careful what you say. You know, we don't want to get the stockfish.
I mean, he's been learning from day one. He's been teaching himself, learning from himself.
He has. I mean, he just sees everything, doesn't he? And I mean, this you can see it on Hikaru's face. I mean, he realizes that it's backfired. It was a risky opening. And it seems, I mean, he's just playing so well, Magnus Carlsen, not just in this match, but in the last couple of months. He's dominating everyone pretty much, pretty much.
Yeah, he does seem unstoppable right now. Chess from another planet. You said AI, artificial intelligence. It's absolutely insane, is the AI that I think of when you think about Magnus.
That's what I meant, everyone. AI, I meant actually insane, like his chess. Yeah, and okay, en passant, flashy move there from Hikaru, but White zooms in with a check. And I think we will see the final flourishes on this game. White's knight saves itself. White is up a whole exchange and a pawn, and Black's king side in tatters.
Yeah.
Looks like Magnus Carlsen is about to wrap up his match in just 3 games. And huge update that Jan Nepomniachtchi has already done it against Anish Giri. That game ended in a draw. So Anish Giri is now down to his last life, will go down to the loser's bracket, while Jan Nepomniachtchi continues in the winner's bracket. Hikaru Nakamura, he continues to play, but it's not just a position. You can look at him and you know that he's feeling hopeless about his chances right now. Grabs a pawn on the other edge of the board. I don't think anyone cares about that pawn.
No.
Look at Black's king.
It's kind of desperate, right? I mean, if you're in a bad position anyway, you might as well try to grab as much material as you can. And but I mean, maybe White can now swing a rook over. You just need to attack the weakened Black king here. That Black king, it's not just that White's material up, as you mentioned. The Black king is so exposed, and those rooks, I just think they can join in the attack probably here. Might even be something stronger, but it looks horrendous. And the queen instead. This is also going to be a killer blow.
Magnus on his queen moves. Tell me a better love story.
Yeah.
He loves his queens.
Especially in the center of the board. I don't know how they always end up on these amazing squares. White's, well, Magnus's queens in particular. It gives a check. Black's king sidelined. And, okay, again, spoiled for choice. And sometimes that isn't a good thing when you know you're winning, when you have too many tempting moves. Magnus's clock as well, under 1 minute. But, of course, it's those queens again. She lines up against the Black king. And Hikaru now threatened with a devastating discovered check. The White bishop hoping to jump out the way next move, and what to do, how to defend.
You've got to go back with the king. You've got to sidestep any big check with the bishop. King to g8 comes to my mind.
Yeah, king to g8. I can't see much else. I mean, I guess White's, yeah, and Hikaru has played it. He's got to get away from that check. And how does White now finish this off? I mean, 3 pieces attacking against an exposed king is normally enough, but it feels like you might need 1 more. Okay, the knight is now aiming for a better square, and a rook coming to g3 where the knight just came from is also going to be terminal here. So Hikaru doing his best, but he's doing his best in a very bad situation.
Yeah, rook d3, rook e3, huge threats here on the board. Both of those white rooks just need to somehow swing across to the open g-file, and any check here will just spell the end of the game. Hikaru, he's defended pretty well since that kind of flurry of tactics, but it's going to be hard to prolong this game further. I think he'll be looking back on that draw. We mentioned it, momentum changes. We talked about their rivalry throughout the last decade or more, and often it's just 1 or 2 moves that kind of cost you in these high-pressure situations.
You said this before, David, as well. You said that, you know, when you offer a draw, when you shouldn't be, you know, the god of chess is really unhappy, right? And she will punish you. And that is the case here. I mean, he should have played on. He had some chance to at least annoy Magnus. He didn't do that, and, well, it's creaking now.
It really is creaking. Queen f5 played, but that doesn't threaten anything. It doesn't save anything. And I'm expecting your maneuver here. There we go. Magnus plays it instantly. The white rook swings up and across.
And that black rook still on 8, hasn't made a single move, a single contribution to the game. So he's not only down an exchange, but actually playing without the other rook as well. Rook g3, a big threat on the board. I won't be surprised if Hikaru just decides to end the torture here.
Yeah, I mean,
right here, right now.
Rook g3 and rook f3 is a threat just to win the black queen, and if you take it, you've got knight g5 check. I can't see any way to defend. And let's have a look on his face. Is this the moment where he's going to have to go down into the lower bracket? He's holding on a little bit more, but they're getting in each other's way as well, those pieces. And you know, every white piece is piling over. 20 seconds each. I mean, you can still blunder. You might as well play on.
Yeah, we saw some mouse slips. We saw some crazy turnarounds in the Speed Chess Championship final. So never say never. Hikaru doing the right thing and fighting on. Never resign too early. Never offer a draw too early either. But this one, he's fighting to the bitter end. The problem is his bishop disappears, and now
Queen
Magnus...
e7, might have 6.
He has a check.
He's got to go king g6.
You've got to go king g6.
Oh, but this check could be a killer. Magnus using geometry here. Loose pieces drop off. The black queen undefended. I think after one more accurate check here, the black king will be forced to a square. The white knight can jump out the way. The black queen would have dropped.
And that's the one. Queen d7 check on the board. And Hikaru Nakamura, with a shake of his head, resigns. And Magnus Carlsen taking the match in just 3 games. A dominating performance today. And it all comes down to that game 2 where Hikaru